Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Welcome to the 9 p.m. English News Edition. Here are the top stories. The head of state presides the 10th meeting of the Council of Ministers. Djibouti gets 2 new airplanes. For the international news, a record of the number of cases never recorded again to WHO. Hello, welcome to our newsroom for having the news in detail. This morning, Tuesday, June 23rd of this year, under the leadership of the President of the Republic, President Ismail Omar Guelleh, the Council of Ministers held its 10th session for the current year at the Presidential Palace. During this session, the Minister discussed several legal texts and drafts. On the agenda of this, we follow with colleague Dini Mosa.
Sous la présidence du chef de l'État, son Excellence M. Ismail Omar Guelleh, s'est tenue la 10e séance du Conseil des ministres en ce mardi 23 juin 2020.
Ministry of Labor for Administrative Reform. First question. Draft decree on the identification card for public and private professionals, temporary work contractors, employees carrying out all types of work. Second question. Draft decree determining the appropriation of fraction of wages subject to progressive detection and the related rates for contributions to compulsory social security institutions. Third question, draft order regulating overtime. The Ministry of Labor presented 3 draft texts. The first draft aims at establishing an identification card for public and private professionals, or contractors, specifying the professionals' exercise to enable each and everyone to evolve harmoniously in his or her work. This card will be issued by ANEFIP and will be renewable every year. It aims to identify private professionals in activity. The second draft, taking in application of Article 142 of Law Number 133/N/5/L of 26 January 2006 on the Labor Code, sets the percentage of salary fraction subject to progressive detection and the ceilings of detection to be made in respect of the work's contribution to the National Social Security Fund, in accordance with ILO Convention number 95, to which our country is a signatory. This draft decree introduces the calculation of the transferable and seizable portions of wages in accordance with Article L 526/2 of the Code of Civil Procedure. The draft decree specifies the rate of contributions already set by the CNSS as compulsory deductions to pay social security charges and to deduct the wage share. The third draft order regulates overtime. Working hours have been increased from 40 to 48 hours per week, in accordance with Article 84 of Law Number 133/N/5/L. The draft provides the performance of overtime work may not have the effect of increasing the actual working hours to more than 60 hours per week, no more than 12 hours per day. The purpose of this text is to regulate the increase in working hours. Overtime worked in excess of 48 hours per week, but not exceeding a limit of 12 hours of overtime per week. The adoption of these drafts is intended to supplement existing labor legalization.
Est saisissable du salaire conformément à l'article 526.2 du Code de procédure civile. La troisième question concerne un projet d'arrêté portant réglementation des heures supplémentaires.
Among the most important projects approved at the 10th session of the Council of Ministers was a draft law on the establishment of a national committee to promote and regulate foreign trade. Let's listen to him again.
Quatrième question concerne un projet de décret portant création d'un comité national.
Ministry of Commerce, fourth question. Draft decree establishing a national committee for the promotion, regulation, and regulation of foreign trade. The purpose of the draft decree is to create a multi-sectoral national committee for the promotion, regulation of foreign trade. Our country is a net importer of food and consumer goods due to the lack of local food production. This is why our economy is very sensitive to price fluctuations on regional and international markets for food and consumer goods. This dependence on exogenous factors is all the more important during crises with an international dimension, whether they are economic or health crises such as the COVID-19 virus. The draft decree specifies the mission and composition of the National Committee for the Promotion, Regulation of Foreign Trade, whose mission is to set up operational action plan for promotion, regulation, developing tools to ensure the supply of mass consumption food and diversify sources of supply on the regional, continental, and international market. This mechanism will facilitate the coordination of government action with regard to market supply, ensure monitoring of foreign trade chains, and support economic operators on the various regional and international markets for food and consumer goods. Ministry of Justice and Penitentiary Affairs in charge of human rights. Fifth question. Draft degree on the approval of 3 lawyers to practice law. The approval to practice as a lawyer is granted to Abdurrahman Harid Abdi, Sharmanki Dawood, and Muhammad Harid Umar in accordance with the provisions of Law number 239 relating to the legal provisions. Ministry of Energy for National Resources. Sixth question. Draft order modifying order number 2016/199/PERN/MERN of 2020 March 2016, modifying the tariffs for the sale of the electrical energy and the associated fees. A social domestic tariff 3 has been created in order to allow some of the RTD subscribers at social tariffs 2 to benefit from the possibility of consuming more than kWh in the first billing period, which increases from 400 to 600 kWh per 2 months period. The first bracket of this social domestic tariff is set at 35 Djiboutian francs per kilowatt, and the second bucket at 50 Djiboutian francs per kilowatt. Domestic subscribers with a subscribed power of 3 kVA will switch to the new social tariff 3, will benefit from a reduction at 3 levels, namely a 14.3% reduction in the price per kilowatt of the first tranche of invoicing, which goes from 400 kilowatt from 40 Djiboutian francs per kilowatt to 35 Djiboutian francs per kilowatt. A 10% drop in the price per kilowatt in the second invoicing tranche, which goes from 55 Djiboutian francs per kilowatt to 50 Djiboutian francs kilowatt. The thickness of the first invoicing tranche goes from 400 kilowatt per bin minute to 600 kilowatt per bin minute, which means that the 200 kilowatt which was invoiced at 55 Djiboutian francs per kilowatt will be invoiced with the new social 3 at the price of 35 Djiboutian francs per kilowatt, a drop of 36.4%. On the other hand, domestic subscribers with 6 kVA subscribed power at the social rate 2 will benefit from an increase in the thickness of the first billing tranche from 400 kilowatt per bin minute to 600 kilowatt per bin minute, which means that the 200 kilowatt which was built at 55 Djiboutian francs per kilowatt will be built at 40 Djiboutian francs per kilowatt, a decrease of 27.3%. Finally, subscribers to the Code 2 domestic tariffs will benefit from an increase in the thickness of the first billing band from 400 kilowatt per bin minute to 600 kilowatt per bin minute, which means that 200 kilowatts that was built at 55 Djiboutian francs per kilowatt will be built at the price of 84 Djiboutian francs per kilowatt, a decrease of 12.7%. The creation of this new domestic social tariff 3 and the modification made to the thickness of the first installments in the 30,000 Djiboutian francs previously granted to the RTD subscribers of social tariff 1 and 2 testifies to the government's commitment to relieve the Djiboutian population and improve their living conditions. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs made a presentation on the Somaliland-Somalia Resume Dialogue Conference and more especially on the work of the technical committees. He informed that following the summit, a joint ministerial committee held its meeting from 15 to 17 June 2020 with an agenda focused on the following points: conduct of meetings, confidence building, referring from any actions that could undermine the talks, non-politicization of the issues of humanitarian and development assistance, congestion of Somaliland's airspace, and the follow-up mechanism. He informed that the 3 technical subcommittees had been established. He also reported on the elections for a non-permanent seat on the UN Security Council for almost 2 years. Our country has been conducting a dignified campaign in accordance with international values and rules in order to obtain a non-permanent seat on the United Nations Security Council to represent East Africa for the period of 2021-2022. Our country's candidacy was motivated by its desire to make its contribution to the resolution of current issues of concern to humanity and the planet. The vote at the United Nations General Assembly took place in 2 rounds, and Kenya was therefore elected in the second round. Finally, our country remains more than ever committed to contributing to the efforts of the international community to promote peace and security. The Minister of Health made a communication of the evolution of the pandemic since the lifting of the confinement in the country, which was marked by reaching of the epidemic peak in 2 weeks of May. Since then, there have been a gradual decline, and he reported that to date, 44,883 tests have been carried out, of which 4,599 positive cases have been reported, and 3,952 cases have been cured. In the context of the forthcoming reopening of borders, measures to combat COVID-19 has been taken, in particular the screening of systematic of travelers on arrival. He informed of the increasing deployment of both logistical and medical resources for the follow-up of COVID-19 cases. Thus, the intensive care services have been reinforced in the hospital care centers, with operational beds dedicated exclusively to the case of COVID-19. He specified that this is the right time to carry out serological study consisting of taking blood sample from the population in order to find out whether the majority of the population who contracted this pandemic have developed antibodies against COVID-19. The Ministry of Muslim Affairs reported on the virtual conference of the Ministry of Culture and the member states of the Islamic Cooperation Organization for Education, Science and Culture, held on 17 June 2020.
Now, following the consultation summit on the talks between Somalia and Somaliland held on June 14, 2020 in Djibouti by the leadership of Djibouti, Somalia, Ethiopia and Somaliland. The Joint Ministerial Committee mandated by the leaders convened on 15-17 June 2020. The Somalia and Somaliland ministerial delegation discussed in a warm and brotherly atmosphere in the presence of a mediator, a Djibouti foreign minister, and by facilitators from the United States of America and European Union. It was agreed that the newly established 14-member Joint Ministerial Committee led for Somalia by His Excellency Mr. Abdi Mohamed Sabriye, Minister of Interior, and for Somaliland by His Excellency Mr. Yassin Haji Mahmoud, Minister of Foreign Affairs, will lead the Somalia and Somaliland negotiation henceforth. During the three-day discussion, the two sides exchange was on a views. It was a views on a number of important issues. They agreed on a common way of conducting the dialogue with the support of the mediator and facilitator. They discussed in length on the confidence-building measures, the key to any progress in the negotiation. Both sides agreed to refrain from any action that could derail the talks. With regard to the humanitarian assistance and development aid, both sides agreed in a principle not to politicize this issue and further endorsed to setting up of a technical subcommittee. Two sides also agreed to establish a subcommittee which will focus on the issue of the co-management of Somaliland airspace. The two sides also agreed not to impede non-political social engagement as cultural, academic, sports, and trade in order to promote peace and dialogue between Somalia and Somaliland. The Joint Ministerial Committee will resume its work within 45 days in Djibouti to review the subcommittee's reports on the overall progress of the talks. Finally, the two sides underlined the necessity of maintaining their dialogue and work within acceptable time frame as they reach a common understanding on pending issues and on the final status of the relation between Somalia and Somaliland. Moving on to the now another news, the Minister of Energy in charge of natural resources, His Excellency Mr. Yunus Ali Gedi, had an announcement concerning the reduction in the tariff of electricity in Djibouti, and I quote, "Today, that an order stipulating a significant reduction in the tariff of electricity in Djibouti was adopted today at a council minister and validated by the President of the Republic, head of the government. He wrote a domestic social tariff 3 in order to benefit a portion of EDD subscribers. At social tariff 2, the possibility to consume more kilowatt per hours at the level of first billing band, which increases from 400 kilowatt per hours to 600 kilowatts per hours. Every 2 months, the first band of these social tree domestic tariffs is set at 35 Djibouti francs per kilowatt per hour, and the second band at 50 francs per kilowatt per hour. Domestic subscribers to the subscribed power of the 3 kilowatt that will increase the new social tree tariff 3 will benefit from a reduction on 3 levels. A 14% reduction in the price of kilowatt per hours in the first billing period, from 40 francs to 35 francs per kilowatt per hour, to a 10% reduction in kilowatts per hour prices in the second billing period, from 55 Djibouti francs per kilowatt per hour to 50 franc per kilowatts per hour. The first billing installment will be increased from 400 kilowatts per hour in half year to 600 kilowatt per hour. The minister, this means that the 200 kilowatt per hour that were built at 55 franc per kilowatt per hour will be built again with a new social tariff tree at a price of 35 franc Djibouti per kilowatt. At the domestic tariff 2, the first billing installment of the domestic social tariff 2 increases from 400 to 600 kilowatt per hour. Quarter all summer month domestic subscribers with a subscribed power of 6 kilowatt per hour. The series tariff will benefit from an increase of the first billing installment, which is being reduced from 400 kilowatt per hour to 600 or every 2 months, which means that the 200 kilowatt per hour that were built at 55 Djibouti franc per kilowatt will be built at 40 Djibouti franc per kilowatt, a reduction of 27.3%. Domestic tariff 2, the first billing installment of the domestic tariff with a subscriber power of 9 kilowatts will also be increased from 400 to 600 kilowatt per quarter every 2 months. The second billing installment of the domestic tariff with a subscribed power of more than 20 kilowatt will be calculated using this new formula. Now, the Republic of Djibouti received on Monday a medical donation from the Kingdom of Morocco to support its determined effort in the fight against the COVID virus. In this regard, this gift and the Moroccan medical aid arrived yesterday at Djibouti's International Airport, where it was received by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation. Government spokespersons, Mr. Mahmoud Ali Yusuf. The medical gift was handed over by the Moroccan embassy in Djibouti, Mr. Ahmed Sabri, and several high-ranking personalities from both sides. This gesture is part of the initiative launched by King Mohammed VI to create a practical framework to support their efforts to combat the COVID-19. This Moroccan medical assistance for African countries consists of masks, gloves, and personal protective equipment such as alcohol, disinfectant with chloroquine and azithromycin. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation and government spokesperson, Mr. Mohamed Ali Yusuf, gave his word. Let's listen to him.
Le Royaume du Maroc a toujours eu des relations privilégiées avec la République de Djibouti et nous ne pouvons qu'être satisfaits de ce geste.
The Kingdom of Morocco has always had privileged relations with the Republic of Djibouti, and we cannot but be satisfied with this extremely frontal gesture, which always takes place in a difficult circumstances for the entire world. We are also very satisfied with the excellent relations that exist between the Kingdom of Morocco and the Republic of Djibouti. We have always made sure that the relations between our two countries are at the highest level, and that we have always coordinated with the two ministries of foreign affairs. Djibouti is still a faithful brother country, and that we are still on the same wavelength in terms of economic, political, and social and humanitarian coordination and cooperation. We also have the privilege of having in Djibouti a youth representative who is Dr. Ahmed Zaitin, who is a Moroccan and who is really doing a very useful job and is allowing us to have the most constructive relationship with this organization, which is in the role. In times like this, he becomes a central role. In any case, my greetings to all our Moroccan brothers in government and to His Majesty, who took the trouble to send a Royal Air Morocco plane with all this equipment to the Republic of Djibouti.
The General Secretary of Health Minister, Dr. Saleh Bounet Touab, gave his daily press briefing on the COVID-19 situation in our country. Let's listen to Dini Moussa.
Comme chaque jour, je voudrais vous faire le point de situation sur le Covid-19 ce 23 juin 2020. Les principales données relatives à l'évolution de l'épidémie Covid-19 en République de Djibouti se déclinent ainsi.
Today, Tuesday, 23 June 2020, the Health Secretary General Dr. Saleh Bounet Touab gave, as usual, the daily press briefing. The main data on the evolution of the COVID-19 epidemic in the Republic of Djibouti are as follows. 37 patients have been declared cured. 330 tests have been carried out. 18 tests have been positive, and 1 case of death have been reported. The evolution of the indicators of the epidemic is in line with the downward trend observed in recent weeks. The overall picture is as follows. 45,213 cases have been detected, of which 4,617 people have been tested positive for COVID-19. 3,989 cases have been declared cured, and 49 deaths have been recorded since the beginning of the pandemic in the Republic of Djibouti. Remain vigilant, protect yourself and others.
Now, a welcoming ceremony for two planes Air Djibouti took place this morning around noon at the Djibouti's International Airport. The two planes named ARG 145 that landed at the airport are named the Mojog and Musha, each with 50 seats. This ceremony took place in the presence of the Djibouti authorities, including the chairman of the board and director of Air Djibouti and chairman of the Djibouti Port Authorities, Excellency Mr. Abubakar Hadi, the Secretary General of the Primature, and Vice Chairman of the Board of Directors of Air Djibouti, His Excellency Naguib Abdullah, and Director General of Air Djibouti, Mr. Abdurrahman Ali Abdullahi. Now, as part of the ongoing preparation to celebrate the 43rd anniversary of the glorious national independence, activities in Djibouti capital city were launched this morning under the leadership of the Mayor of Djibouti, Mrs. Fatima Awale Osman. These activities, which include the cleaning of the capital's main streets, buildings, facades, and shops, have involved various youth associations active in the country. Early this morning, the Unity Society of the 70th District participated in this initiative, in which the main arteries of the country are decorated in response to the appeal launched by the mayor of the city of Djibouti. The mayor of Djibouti calls on all the inhabitants of the city to contribute to the beautification activities of the capital and to make it a clean city. The inhabitants of the 7th District thank the young participants and the Association for Unity and Promotion who contributed to this process, and the mayor of Djibouti. Now, the mayor's office of the city of Djibouti informs owners of vehicles and wrecks abandoned in public places that a vast impoundment operation will begin on Tuesday, 23rd June 2020. In this regard, the mayor of Djibouti's office solemnly asked the owners to kindly evacuate their vehicles or wrecks. Otherwise, the Djibouti City Hall will proceed to remove them, and this is the responsibility of the owners. After the rise in price of the vegetable on the local market due to the import restriction in some exporting countries as the result of corona crisis, the price of some vegetable has seen a sharp rise in the price of onions and tomatoes. Radio and television in Djibouti have made a tour of the market in Riyadh, which is located in the center of the capital, after the very high price of onions and tomatoes throughout the country, since the price of a kilo of onion has reached 500 Djibouti franc, while the price of a kilo of tomato has reached 1,000 francs. This is the highest increase compared with the rest of the vegetable and fruit, which are still at their known price. In this regard, the Ministry of Trade and the authorities concerned are making considerable effort to find an appropriate solution to this new problem as soon as possible. Now, in cooperation with the United Nations Children Fund, the Red Crescent Djibouti has launched an awareness campaign on the importance of respecting preventive and precautionary measures to combat the coronavirus epidemic in the capital, Djibouti. This campaign aims to raise awareness among citizens not to let the follow-up of the recommendation of the Ministry of Health and the application of precautionary measures with a decrease in the number of cases of coronavirus infection in the national territories. Company organizers urge participants to wash their hands regularly, wear masks in public places, and respect social separation. The awareness campaign carried out by Red Crescent volunteers in Djibouti is expected to continue in different neighborhoods of the capital and the interior regions in order to educate as many citizens as possible. The aim is to raise awareness among as many people in the societies as possible. The campaign is being carried out by the Djibouti Red Crescent Society in cooperation with the United Nations Information Centers, an important partner of the United Nations. In a speech delivered on this occasion, the president of the Djibouti Red Crescent Society, Abdi Farah, stressed from the outset the importance of these awareness-raising operations, which were attributed to Djibouti community. Let's listen to him.
L'événement qui nous réunit aujourd'hui a pour objectif de relancer la sensibilisation
The event that brings us together today aims to raise awareness across the country on the barrier gestures against the COVID-19. Indeed, the declaration of positive cases should not be a source of relief, by rather an additional motivation to respect and apply the instructions given by the country's health authorities, namely to wash hands, wear masks, and respect the social distancing of the small gestures that are life-saving for the community. I would like to thank the representative of UNICEF, who has always been at our side from the beginning, since the beginning of the corona pandemic.
Now in Dikil, where the Djibouti Red Crescent Foundation, in cooperation with the United Nations Children's Fund, is conducting an awareness campaign on the importance of respecting preventive and precautionary measures to fight the coronavirus in this region. This campaign aims to raise awareness among citizens not to let the follow-up of the recommendation to the health ministers in the application of precautionary measures with a decrease in a number of cases of coronavirus. Campaign organizers urge participants to wash their hands regularly, wear masks in public places. The awareness campaign carried out by Red Crescent volunteers in Djibouti is expected to continue in different parts of the capital and in the interior regions with the aim of reaching as many citizens as possible. Now it is with great sorrow and deep sadness that we learned of the death in the evening of June 23rd, 2020 at Hospital Pilche of an icon of Djibouti song, Mrs. Habiba Abdullahi Wabri, known by the nickname Habiba Balbalaf. The deceased was an icon of her generation and has just left behind her a rich and exemplary artistic legacy that is just nationally recognized. Born on July 8, 1961 in Djibouti, the late Habiba Abdullahi Wabri was a singer and one of the most popular interpreters of the Djiboutian song. She first appeared on stage at the age of 21 with the group Kahan Ma'an and began her artistic career in 1982. The deceased leaves behind her 4 children. In these painful circumstances, the Ministry of Muslim Affairs, Culture and Waqf Properties, His Excellency Mr. Mumin Hassan Barre, and all the national artists present their deepest condolences to the family and loved ones of the deceased Habib Abdullahi Wabri. We pray to all the Most High and Merciful to grant him forgiveness and welcome him to his eternal paradise. Ameen. Inna lillah wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Now moving to the international news, while Europe is losing confidence every day, the progression of the COVID-19 pandemic is accelerating worldwide according to WHO, with a record number of cases ever recorded in 24 hours. More than 180,000 cases have been recorded worldwide in just 24 hours, the highest number since the new coronavirus emerged. More details with Dini Musa.
WHO reported on Wednesday the highest number of new cases of COVID-19 in the world in a single day since the start of the pandemic, saying it fears its consequences in the poorest countries. We still have a long way to go in this COVID-19 pandemic. In the last 24 hours, 106,000 cases have been reported to WHO, the highest figure for a single day since the beginning of the pandemic, the Director General of the World Health Organization said. United States, Russia, Brazil, and Saudi Arabia, nearly 2/3 of these cases were reported in 4 countries, he added at a virtual press conference from WHO headquarters in Geneva. Mr. Tedros did not specify which countries were involved, but according to the latest WHO report published on its website, these were the United States, Russia, Brazil, and Saudi Arabia, followed closely by India, Peru, and Qatar.
This is it for this edition of 9 p.m. Thank you for watching us.